Hello, dear students. Welcome to the Bajirao IS Academy. First of all, Merry Christmas to you all and hope you will succeed in your life and achieve as per your dream. So, in today's session, we are going to discuss the daily Hindu newspaper analysis, and the date is 25th of December. And today, we will cover two important issues. The first one is related to job crisis in India. We know that India's employment sector is not a very good position. Why? Because on the one side, we are seeing the rapid rise in economic growth, but on the another side, when it talks to the employment growth rate, it is not as much as it has to be. Then further, we will shift to the second article where there will be a talk about Indian Science Congress and how this body, which aims to promote scientific discussions, debate, participation, but now it is under the political affiliation, and how we can make it better in the coming time. And also the hosting, which was going to be occurred by Lucknow University, was postponed, and then there is a crisis in this scenario. So we will discuss. So the first article can be related to GS paper 2, GS paper 3. Okay. So when we talk about India, we know that India has about 140 crore population, and majority of the population is in the demographic dividend, and they have the potential for the employment, for the job, and they can progress with the progress of the society, with the progress of the country. But for the progress, we need to have a job. And when we talk about a job scenario, it is not good in India. We have many data that suggest that the potential employer and the employability that needs to have, it is not as per the recommendations. So we have the persistent job crisis despite we have the economic growth. But apart from that, what we are seeing, like the wage crisis as well, like we have the income inequality, the laborers, the daily wage earners who have very less income on the daily basis as compared to the corporates, MNC employers, or the government employer. So one thing is that. And apart from that, we have the formal versus informal job sector, where majority of the Indian workforce are engaged in informal sector. Informal sector means like they do not have the social security scheme benefits. Okay. And apart from that, the insurance scheme, and also security accidental insurance. Okay. So these type of things do occur, and hence the burden if any disease occurs, like related to the child education, so all gets burdened to the worker. Okay. So that is one another thing. And apart from that, we are seeing the stagnant salaried worker growth in the non-agricultural sector. We have the crisis in agricultural sector as well, but apart from that, the people who are working in the non-agriculture sector as well, they do have facing the crisis of a stagnant salary, a stagnant wage. So what is the reason behind it? We need to understand. And here comes certain important concept. Like when we talk about the employment growth, it depends on the demand of the product. If in an economy the demand is very very high, so the company, the manufacturer will produce more and more. And if production will be increasing, so that means the participation of the labor will also be higher, because it is directly proportional. But what we are seeing, that despite we have the higher economic growth, and higher economic growth represents what? Like you have the good manufacturing production, good manufacturing output rate. So this represents the economic growth. Okay. But despite we have the one of the highest economic growth in the world, but we are facing the employment crisis. Now there is important thing to note here, that technological advancement in India is increasing. The technological penetration in the job in the company is also increasing, the machinery, the automation is going to be increased. That is also affecting the participation of the workers, because we, as the world's largest population, we are like huge labor supply. But when technology comes, so the demand of labor gets shrink, and that affects the employability. Okay, so that is one another thing we need to understand. And apart from that, we are facing the phase of jobless growth. And what do you mean by jobless growth? It's like a situation where economic output is performing better, but when we compare with the proportionate growth in the employment opportunity, it's not up to the mark. So, on the one side, we are having good economic growth, good manufacturing, production, all of that. Okay, but when it comes to the percentage increase in the employment of the potential workforce, it is not increasing at the rapid rate. And in India, we need that employment rate should grow, should improve, should multiply. Otherwise, the potential workforce, the demographic dividend will not be ripped through. Okay, so there are two types of jobless growth regime, like weak responsiveness of productivity to output, where employment rise with higher GDP, and there is another like high responsiveness, which is in the case of India, where the productivity offsets positive GDP impact, and we have an indicator to measure some of the important productivity with respect to the output, like Caldor-Verdorn coefficient. And if this Caldor-Verdorn coefficient is higher, so it has a better, it has a bad impact on the employability. Okay, so hence when we talk about India, so India's high coefficient leads to unique policy challenge. So that is the thing we need to understand. And apart from that, from history to the present, we have adopted many macroeconomic policy framework. Remember, we are talking about macro. There is a difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Can you tell me the difference? Yes, please do tell. So historically, we followed Keynesian model as well, where aggregate demand is very important for the job growth. And apart from that, to create aggregate demand, we need to have a fiscal stimulus. That means the government funds into the economy so that demand should be created. And once demand gets created, then the production will be definitely increasing, and production is directly linked to the employment generation. So one philosophy is that we call as Keynesian. Then we have the Mahalanobis strategy, where the capital goods, once there was a scarcity in India, but we started focusing on heavy industrialization. We know that the second 5 year plan, maybe you had remembered it. Okay, the focus was on industrialization, so that the industry should be set up, so the manufacturing industry should be promoted. And you know that the manufacturing sector has a very important role in the job creation. First of all, it will transit from agriculture worker to the manufacturing sector. And apart from that, there is a high chance that in the manufacturing sector, there is higher participation of the workers. Okay, and it also increases the productivity, efficiency, and apart from that, economic growth as well. And apart from that, there was a structuralist theory, and but the major core theme, we can say that, is aimed for the employment growth, and they was related to the economic growth. Like economic growth will always boost the employment. But what we are seeing, that not always the economic growth boost the employment. Okay, because we can say that GDP growth alone is insufficient to address the job challenge. Otherwise, we are seeing that one of the highest GDP growth in India, but they're not able to address the job challenge, because there are many challenges related to the employability, like formal versus informal. Okay, like demand and supply misbalance. Apart from that, there are other hindrance, like global scenario. Okay, because now we are a globalized interconnected world, so whatever impact which is happening in the world, there is an impact on India as well and vice versa. So there is a policy options which has been suggested, like we have to take care of the demand and supply side. We have to proceed for demand side intervention, like we need to create direct public job creation so that income will be generated and it also create the demand. Okay, and apart from that, macroeconomic tools needs to be developed for employment friendly policy where the employment should be promoted. But here one thing about supply side intervention. So supply side means we will be increasing like supply, and here we do have the labor supply, but what we are seeing that they are not a skill. The a skill which is required by the industry is not available to the laborer, to the workers. That's why even they are potential worker, they are not able to reap the benefit of the employment in the industry. So this is another issue. So we need to have a work on supply side intervention where a skill development and education needs to be fulfilled to close the skill gap, and apart from that, improved public health care to enhance the workforce quality. This all needs to be done. So in conclusion, we can say that we need to reorient the macroeconomic framework, increase the direct tax to GDP ratio so that the tax collection should be increased, and this can be invested to create the demand and supply side scenario that will promote the employment and also improve tax compliance as well. Creative use of macroeconomic policy tool for employment goals, and there is a need to have an urgency of addressing India's job crisis through tailored economic strategy. Okay, so we need a comprehensive, dedicated employment policy or the strategy that will take care of the employment interest of Indian workers, of the Indian potential worker. Otherwise, despite we have the economic growth, the nation will face the poverty challenge, malnutrition challenge, income disparity, gender disparity, and many more things. These all are interrelated, and hence it will make under the trap of, like we say, middle income trap. We are not like improving ourselves from the developing nation tag to developed nation tag. That is also one of the thing we need to understand. So that is the first article. Hope you understood. Now we are shifting to the second article. It can be related to GS paper 3. So both these articles are related to GS paper 3. So when we talk about Indian Science Congress, do you know that before India got independence, we do have like scientific progress in our country. Like in 1920s, okay, we were in the progress to have a scientific mindset, and also we have started contributing in the field of science. Like we can say here, Indian Science Congress, which was founded in 1914, and you have to tell me who was responsible for the founding of Indian Science Congress. And after that, there was series of annual event for this event which was going on for scientific research and communication. And here the deliberations, discussions are happen between the scientific community. Many experts participate, they give their opinions, they give their like future plan in the field of scientific development. So this is very important forum to have a debate and discussion, and we have seen that this prestigious platform or the forum on the annual basis was inaugurated by Prime Minister. Apart from that, the Nobel laureates participates. But we are seeing the recent controversy here, like pseudoscience. Pseudoscience, that means false claims, okay, are being promoted with respect to the science, and there is like concept of hyper nationalism which is being reflected in this forum. And apart from that, funding dispute is also rising here. So these programs to have a like inauguration, they needs funding, but who do the funding? So we have the Department of Science and Technology, okay, and also the Indian Science Congress Association. Basically this ISC association is autonomous body under Department of Science and Technology now we are seeing that ISC Association and Department of Science and Technology is fighting among themselves, and there is a allegations about financial irregularities by the association, and hence we are seeing that those institute or the university which host this Indian Science Congress every year, okay, that depends on every year university changes, okay. So in 2024 it was to be hosted by Lucknow University, but now like they have withdrawn from hosting it. And then there was again like inaugurations, recommendations like Lovely Professional University, which is in Punjab, who was given the duty to host it, but later it also withdrawn from this hosting parameter. So we need to understand that why this type of crisis is happening in such a beautiful platform where scientific experts comes, they gives opinions and also their ideas. So this should not become a conflicting forum between the political association and the scientific and the institutions. Okay, so this is very important for the exposure for students and researchers for the awareness creation. So we need to reconceptualize the Indian Science Congress, and we have to eliminate whatever the differences which is coming here. Okay, and we should not give too much emphasis on the political figures and Nobel laureates here, because here this is the platform of debate and discussions and putting their ideas. Okay, and if we will indulge like giving too much respect here on the political figures, so only limited representative will be representing the state, that are scientific community. So this should not be done. The participations will be holistic. Each scientific community which participates here should be given opportunity to have their say in their like pattern. So when we talk about competition and alternatives, one thing is also visible. Like apart from Indian Science Congress, there is rise of India International Science Festival, which is a government of India backed event with broader scope. So it is looking like this India International Science Festival is becoming possible competitor to Indian Science Congress, and hence the government is also more focusing here but less focusing on ISC. So there is a recommendation for the future, like now we need to have a critical appraisal of the format of the ISC. Apart from that, a structure, and we need to have a reform on the governance scenario, and transparency and accountability to be increased. Focus on quality research presentation and discussion need to have, and collaboration with other scientific institutions and stakeholders needs to done. So friends, this was the today's session. Hope you enjoyed it, and now we are having to close the session, and we need to have a question practice for you. Like pause the video and give your answer in the chat box. We will reply definitely, and if you have any doubt, please do ask freely, and we will be providing you the solution. So thank you friends, we will meet again in the next sort of session. Thank you very much.